Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for clicking in. This is homemade tomato paste from, yes, fresh tomatoes from my garden. I'm so happy, guys. This year has been really good for tomatoes. I have harvested so far over 35 kilograms, yes. And today we were actually processing about 24 kilos. Now, guys, you see this liquid there? It's from these tomatoes. If you freeze your tomatoes, you have a lot of liquid come out when you thaw it. And so it's quite good that way because tomatoes are actually over 90% water. Yes, they are high liquid fruits. Oh yes, they're not vegetables, they're fruits. So yes, defrosting it really helps because it reduces your cooking time. And this is what we do. This one here hasn't been frozen. I actually harvested this on the day, so I thought I'll show you two different ways to process it. Now we are making this tomato paste with a food mill, not a blender, but I'm going to show you how to use different techniques to process your tomatoes. So using the food mill is quite simple. There are three different blades and you just crush it. Finally, when you've sieved the sauce out, you put the whole thing through a colander to get rid of the seeds. We don't really want the seeds in tomato paste. As you know, tomato paste is better without seeds, okay? And then finally, the liquid which we've strained out, so which is the pure tomato sauce, we're going to put it through a cheesecloth. We don't also want the amount of liquid because, guys, it's 24 liters. Even after taking away about 6 liters from the defrosting, we still have a whole amount of liquid to deal with, and we don't want to be cooking this for hours and hours. So putting this in a cheesecloth or in a nut milk bag will really help reduce the liquid further. Now this is what the bottom of my food mill looks like, okay? It's quite nice and easy to use. It's new to me. Normally I'll use my blender, but then I won't be able to separate the seeds and I don't get the end result that I want. Now that's the liquid coming out of our cheesecloth. Now if you were processing this from fresh tomatoes that you just bought and you didn't want to freeze and anything like that, same way, but you just need to cut it up into little bits. The food mill still does the job, okay? So this is what I have been doing. I did this way just so you could see it's not as complicated. You have all the skins coming out there, separating the skins, and don't discard the skins, okay? The skins are really good. Now this is also another method using a blender. You can actually do this with a blender and it's a little bit quicker, but I find you get more seeds go through the food mill using a blender. So that's why I don't like using a blender. The blender just chops it, it doesn't blitz it. You don't want to blitz it. Just chop it on like a pulse or a slow speed like I'm using on my Vitamix. Just chop it up for a few seconds and then put it through the food mill again. Yes, I love this food mill because of the separation it does. The skins come apart and the seeds. All right, so we do this again with this. These particular ones are actually the red ones I will be using for our special Nigerian jollof because we like our jollof rice red. The other ones are heirloom tomatoes, which are like really old varieties and they're not all bright red. They're like purple. They're high in anthocyanins, which is why I'm growing them, but they're not very bright red, and so that's the reason I'm separating them to make this. So this is the darker one on the right and the other one is the bright red one for my jollof. Now look at the amount of seeds we took out, okay? And we're going to discard the seeds. The seeds are almost like dealing with pepper seeds. You don't really want like sweet bell pepper seeds in your sauce or whatever because it actually is a bit bitter. And the skins I am not discarding. The skins I will be using to add to this sauce or to the paste, okay? So next we go on to the boil. This is going to be about an hour. If I wasn't doing this way after using the cheesecloth, we will probably spend over 4 hours to boil down the liquid, the moisture content. At this point I'd already taken out nearly 10 liters of liquid, which is amazing considering we have over 90% of liquid in this. So 10 liters out, and I had a pot that could actually contain the whole tomato sauce. Now I cook this, okay, cooking this on medium heat so we don't burn it, for about an hour. And I'm gonna go ahead and process these bright red ones as well using the cheesecloth. This massive cheesecloth really helps, okay? If you don't have a cheesecloth, like I said, get yourself a nut milk bag. They're quite accessible, or a mesh strainer, but nothing too big to let the sauce out. Now we're going to be blending our skins. Okay, look at that paste. That is just tomato skin. Some people actually dehydrate the skins, but I thought I'll just blend it. So yeah, a blender does a good job if you have a decent blender. See how my blender's crushed up all the skins, making it a paste. And people actually cook with just the skins, but I'm actually adding the skins into the sauce because I wanted the whole thing as paste. Now when the sauce heats up, I put it into a nut milk bag again because I don't want to spend the whole day here, and we're making paste, we're not making sauce. So I strained it and I'm ending up with this beautiful, look at that paste, really thick. It's really saved me time and energy cooking it for ages. Okay, so now I'm adding citric acid because the acidity in my tomatoes were really high, low rather, because the pH needs to be about 5 or below if you want to can or preserve your tomatoes away from the freezer. Modern day tomatoes are not as acidic as they used to be. They've hybridized them. Even with the alien ones, they still are not as acidic, and if it's not acidic, you have the room for bacteria to grow, and something called botulism. It's high risk for, it can actually kill people, hospitalize people. So if you're going to be canning this, you need a decent acidity if you're going to use a water bath canner. If you are going to be using a pressure canner, then it's not a problem. Now look, I have a better pH. It's not very clear there, but that pH was about 4, and at this point I was happy to go ahead and can. And don't worry, it doesn't impact on the flavor so much because we've cooked with it and it's not as acidic. So if that's a problem, if you don't want citric acid, you could also use lemon juice. Okay, but I just thought, I have citric acid, I use it to make my cordials. It's food grade and I was happy to add. It's only a few teaspoons, about 3 teaspoons in this huge amount of tomatoes. This is about 4 months worth of tomatoes. Oh yeah, this is a lot better now. I think I wasn't 100% satisfied, and so I added a little bit more citric, just 1 more teaspoon there. So just make sure your pH scale is not above 5, definitely, if you are not putting this in the freezer. If it's going in the freezer, it's absolutely fine, and you can do that as well. So now we just washed our cans and time to store this in the, well, to process it in the canner. So we fill this up. I try not to touch the lids and stuff because we don't want cross contamination, we don't want bacteria growing. Now this is the red tomatoes. These are the ones I'm using for jollof. I'm also going to boil that down and can them. So now we're just going to do this. At this point I was tired, it was a long day, so I decided I'll just leave everything and then the next day I'll show you. So the popping of the cans happened. They call them canning but they're glasses, so it's all popped. Now the next day I've put some of it in a bag because it's going to go in my freezer. I don't have enough jars, and this is what we've dealt with, this amount of tomatoes, guys. Thank you. If you've watched till this point, yes, you can absolutely make your own homemade tomato paste at home. Please leave us a comment, share this video if you've enjoyed it, and also do not forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, and absolutely go ahead and make your own tomato paste if you have an abundance like I did. See you in another video. Bye.